So our first speaker today is Jérôme Barreau. He's a research scientist at IRAP in Toulouse, and his research interests include helioseismology, astroseismology, stellar rotation, and granulation. And today he will tell us about changes in the granulation scale over the solar cycle. So thank you, Jérôme.
Thank you, Aaron, for introducing me. For people who know me a bit, it's not my usual topic because generally I mainly deal with seismology of solar-like stars and fast rotation in stars. But for this seminar, I decided to present a work we have done mainly these two last years with my colleagues Thierry Roudier and colleagues in Meudon, Jean-Marie Malerne and Zoe Frank in US. And it's about the granulation on the sun and how it varies with time, especially with within a solar cycle. So the granulation is an astrophysical phenomenon which is well documented for more than 1 century. I really like this old picture done by Jules Janssen at the Meudon Observatory at the late 19th century. And if you can have a look, zoom in, it's you clearly see a well-detailed structure of the granulation. The granulation are well defined. You see some pore. And since then, it has been a lot of people are looked for variation of the granulation scale. So typically the size of the granule or the number of granules you have at the surface of the sun with time. To show you that, I dig in various workshops during the 20th century. And there was this first attempt by Macris and Elias at mid-20th century. And okay, this is this plot. This is the density, not the density, the number of granules estimated at the solar surface as a function of the Wolf number that characterized the activity level of the sun. And you see this different point, and they find some nice correlation and a strong variation because the variation between the minimum of activity and the maximum of activity is larger than 50% in their analysis. Few decades later, Richard Muller and Thierry Roudier did the same kind of exercise using image of the granulation, take, I guess, in Meudon and Pic du Midi Observatory. And they find some variation in the density, but it's smaller. It's about 10%, 20%. This is a result just that appeared in conference and indeed never published in a reviewed paper because Thierry Roudier was afraid there was some biases in the analysis, especially the quality of image that has changed a lot between the picture taken at the minimum and the maximum of activity. So to see the variation of the convection at the surface of the sun is something that has been, in a sense, observed indirectly, especially there is this work by Livingstone, early 80s in Nature, where it is shown that the bisector of the photospheric line vary with time. So as you probably all know, the bisector of lines have C-shape, which is due to the convection because the upper flow is broader but slower than the plumes, the intergranuled plumes that are very narrow but with high speed, and that creates this disymmetric shape of lines, and it it translates as a C-shaped bisector. And you see that the C-shaped bisector during maximum of activity and minimum of activity is clearly different. And it shows there is some underlying changement in the convection. Of course, this data, as far as I remember, are averaged over the full disk, the whole disk of the cell. Another way to look after variation in the granulation, it's something that people doing stereosismology well known, is to use the power spectrum of light curve or of radial viscosity curve. So this is the spectrum of Golf produced by Golf. So it's called data. Golf is an instrument aboard spacecraft. And Sandrine Lefebvre with collaborator have studied the behavior of the spectrum with time. It's called data. So in the spectrum, you see, you can decompose the spectrum in several components. The bump here is P modes, the global low degree P modes mainly here. And this all this part of the spectrum is generated by the convection, and the granulation is this component, the pink component. So you can derive the amplitude of this profile, which is what we call the RV profile. It's a modified Lorentzian. It's a close Lorentzian. It's a bit modified because the slope here is not 2 exponent necessarily. Anyway, so there is this the amplitude and the characteristic time scale, which is directly linked to the width of this profile. And these 2 parameters here are plotted as a function of magnetic indexes, so MPSI for this work. And clearly, they don't found any correlation between neither the time scale, neither the amplitude of the granulation component compared to the activity level. However, we have to, when we have a look in their data and what they say in the paper, it's clearly that there is some effect, but it's mainly dominated by instrumental effect, and it's highly polluted by the orbital effect of spacecraft that create the big change in the radial velocity, and the imprint of this change are clearly still visible in the data. So it's hard to conclude anything, or at least there is no variation visible at the detection level. However, we know from a detailed study of the surface that magnetic field has an impact on the size of the granule, and something that has been seen in the Plage region by several people. This is a picture extract from this paper, Narayan and Schramer 10 years ago. And you see here a magnetic field map. And you have some magnetic field here. It translates by appearing of some pore here. But what is clearly visible on this picture, and the typical granule size in the plage are smaller than outside the plage. And that is expected because we know that if you have convection within a magnetic field, if you have a vertical magnetic field, the size of the convective cells should be shrink. And if you have some horizontal magnetic field, you will observe some deformation of the granules along in the direction of the magnetic field. And it's what is observed in this plage. But the question is, do we see some variation of the granulation also in the quiet zone, so not in far from spots and pore and strong magnetic structure? The recent work, so 3 years ago, by Richard Müller using INODE data was not very conclusive. They looked after change in the granulation scale and granulation contrast. To compute the scale, they use a spatial Fourier transform mainly. And this is the evolution of the contrast and the scale. And this is Wolf number that traces the solar activity. And clearly, they don't see significant change. There is this change here, but as far as I remember, it's mainly due to instrumental effects. So they can only conclude that if there is any change of the granulation scale in the quiet sun, it should be smaller than 3%. So we wanted to go further, and so I will present during this seminar mainly the result of one paper we published very recently. And we wanted to do the same, we want to investigate the same thing as Richard Müller, but with a different approach. So to be able to track change in the granulation scales over a solar cycle, we need a sample of images, which is the most homogeneous as possible, with a long coverage, because we want to cover at least one solar cycle, and a very regular sampling. To do that, we use SDO image, so HMI image. So HMI is an instrument aboard SDO satellite. And so we use a series of images from July 2010 to when we started the study, it was November 2019. And since the processes will be the analysis process are quite heavy, we want to limit the sample because there is almost one image every 45 seconds. So what we decide is just to pick one day every month, possibly almost the first day of the month, or very close according to the available data. And we select one image per hour, so it means we have 24 images per day. We do that also to be sure that from one image to the other, there is no common granule, because the lifetime of the granule is typically several 10 minutes or several tenths of minutes. So one image to the other is decorrelated at the granulation scale. So we ended with a bench of 2,700 images. And we focus on the disk center with, this is the field of view we select. So it's most at the scale, the square is at the scale. We focus on the disk center mainly to avoid any projection effect, because when you are close to the lens, of course, on your images, there is the sun, the plane of the sun is inclined compared to the image plane, and you have to take into account this projection and try to correct it and to limit that. And we really focused on this on the disk center. So what is the typical image we get? This is a part of this field of view, just a limited part. You see just 100 by 100 arc seconds. So you can see on this image some the granules. The advantage of SDO, we see the granules directly. And but to be able to analyze them proper way, we decided to deconvolve the image using the PSF function provided in COVID-19 2016. This is not the first time it has been done. This approach has been validated through comparison with in-day observation, especially in a recent paper by Thierry Roudier. So we verify that when we deconvolve image from SDO, we recover the same granule as with high resolution images provided by Inode at the same time, at the same place. So once we have deconvolved these images, we process to a segmentation to isolate the granules. To do that, there is a lot of techniques that is proposed by several people. One is called watershed. There is one very famous proposed by Bovlet and Beer 20 years ago. For this work and for these images, we decided to define the granule as a convex element of the images. And doing that, this is the segmentation we get. Each white piece is considered to be a granule. It has several advantages for our study. First, it's totally parameter-free, contrary to other techniques that needs to impose some level of detection, some level of contrast, and so on. We are totally parameter-free, and it's by construction, the convexity is not sensitive to the contrast of the image. So if there is some variation in the contrast of the image, there is no impact on the detection. So it means that we are totally insensitive to large-scale variation of the intensity across the images. And we know there is some variation of intensity, for instance, produced by P modes, but it could be also by some instrumental effects. Even if our image is not at large scale very homogeneous, the detection, the techniques provide a good detection of the granule. The only caveat of the main caveat of this method is to underestimate the size of the granule compared to more classical techniques, because the convex part is mainly the central part of the granules. So close to the border of the granules, it's not taken into account. But it just means that all of the granule will be underestimated in size, and we will be only able to measure some relative variations of the granule size, and it will be what we will do. So any of the numbers are not really meaningful in terms of absolute quantity. Only relative variation makes sense in our work. So once we have such an image, of course, we have to deal with the border in the detail what we have to do. You just have to, for instance, to count the granules, to normalize by the field of view area, because it changes with the orbits. And you measure for each image the density of the granule at the center of the disk of the sun with time. And this is what we get. As you see, there is still a strong modulation, which is exactly 1 year. So it's mainly probably for some instrumental reason or some reason linked to our methods. But we see underlying some global variation. It seems to be increasing in the first half and decreasing close to the end. So a large part of the work was to try to understand what happened, what can create this 1 year modulation, just to be sure that we control every parameter of the analysis. Since bypass, there was a lot of detection that appears to be wrong. This 50% by Macris or even the 10% by Müller decades ago does not appear to be real. So what can create this variation? Make a lot of check, verify that the contrast change has no impact, it's normal. We also verify doing some artificial defocusing of the image or taking image with a different quality, the impact of the focus, because when you change the focus, we change the contrast, but you change also the sharpness of the image, and it can impact the convectivity of the granules. And we conclude that any annual effect should be smaller, far smaller than 1%, so smaller than the 5% variation we see during 1 year. However, it explains a part of the daily spread. So it means that, for instance, what I note shows that for one day, all of the measurements are here. This is a typical spread over one day. As was mentioning the different effects, and mainly we go through everything we can think about change in image quality, and I was saying that the image quality have a small impact. It can explain the dispersion during the daily dispersion typically, but not any annual variation or very large variation. We verify the orbits and the impact of the radial velocity of the satellites is not correlated to any effect we observe. Yes, and we verify that there is an annual phenomenon, which is a change in B0. B0 is the angle between the solar axis, the solar rotation axis, and the observation plane. So it changed with time, just due to the Earth's orbit. It's an annual variation, but there is clearly no correlation at all, because of course, twice in a year we had that B0 equals 0 angle. Typically, as far as I remember, in March and September, we observe the sun clearly equatorwards, and the observation in March and September are not similar. The last parameter, and it's a good one, is the size of the pixel, because in terms of what is the size of the pixel in megameters, and it changes between the perihelion and the aphelion, because we are closer or farther from the sun. And we to test that and verify it was really the effect, we use some 3D simulation provided by Stein and Nordlund. And we simulate SDO data from this simulation, from the same simulation, one corresponding to a perihelion and one to the aphelion. And the variation of the measured density is the same as what we see during a year. And we can understand that to have a look on the histogram of the granule size in so it's for a given image, it's the size of the granules. So you have a distribution, and this decay here is clearly linked to the limited resolution of the images. And when you change the size of the pixel, you change the cutoff of this distribution, and it impacts the number of detected granules, and we will see also the average granule. So it means that we cannot really compare within 1 year, since this the pixel of the size of the pixel change, we cannot compare this number. However, from one observation to an observation exactly 1 year after, with exactly the same pixel size, these observations are directly comparable. So to remove this pixel effect, we do that in an ad hoc way. So this is the observed link between the density of the granule and the pixel size, the pixel area in megameter. And you see that there is a smooth trend with it, and we remove from the data. And this is what we get once we have removed this annual oscillation due to the pixel size. And of course, we cannot infer any statement within 1 year. However, we see that during these decades, there is clearly the increase and the decrease, and it seems to be higher a bit after the maximum of activity. And we have a variation which is around 2%, a bit less than 2%. You see some points that are plotted in red and blue. It corresponds to images that can be polluted by spots, so close to the maximum we have a lot, and pop. So black point correspond to images that has been one by one verified, there is no trace of any pore or any magnetic structure in the intensity images. So you see that even if we just focus on the black points, we clearly see the trend. We can compute also not only the density, but the mean area of the granule and do the same work. Of course, it's not totally independent because we use the same kind of image, but it has the advantage to take into account the surface of the granule in the computation. We recover the same kind of behavior. So for the area is the opposite, it decreases, then it increases again. To be sure that everything works well, we also verify that the filling factor, which is nothing but the product of the density and the mean area of the granule. So the filling factor should be constant. So the filling factor is a fraction of the surface of the sun which is filled with granule. And it should be constant because it is not for a long time that irradiance variation that is induced by a change in granulation is very small. It should be smaller than 0.01%. And if the filling factor changes, it will drastically change the irradiance. And what we find is the scale, have a look on the scale. So it's constant with time, or at least it does not, it's not linked at all with the activity level. However, we see a small decay of 0.2% over the full data set. And we interpret this as an impact of the aging of the instrument because the optics are aging, detectors are aging, and the quality of the data should be slightly degraded time after time. And we know that when, due to this degradation, we will lose more and more small granule in a sense, and it will create this change in the filling factor. To complete this study, we have a look also not only on SDO data because we don't want to rely only on one instrument. We have a look on some INODE observation over 1 decade. The advantage of, so it's a typical INODE images we have used. And you see that it's a very high resolution compared to HMI. And it's the main interest. It's very high, it's higher resolution, so we don't need any deconvolution to very correctly define all of the granule. And we are less sensitive, almost not sensitive to the pixel size. We see a lot more granules than with SDO. However, it has a big caveat. We have a very limited statistics with INODE. First, because the field is much smaller. So we have a lot less granule. And we have a far limited sample. We have less than 200 images we can use for this study for various reasons, because we wanted something very evenly spaced, not even exactly evenly spaced, but at least regular in time. And we have to use image in a blue continuum. And a lot of INODE images has been taken in the G bands. And in G bands, there is a lot of small bright structure generated by magnetic field that is not compatible with our granule detection. So we have a limited statistics, but we wanted to see what happens. And this is the plots of what we get with INODE. You still see some annual variation we don't have really treated here. And of course, there is a lot less points, so it's really noisier. However, in this part here is a part which is observed simultaneously by SDO. This tick corresponds to the beginning of the SDO observation, and we know that in this time period, there is a decrease of the mean area, and we can just have a linear regression of this point here. So this is the red line, SDO observation. And we can focus on the same time interval and verify if we have something which is rather constant or compatible with the decay. So the fit and the comparison with the constant model shows that there is a significant decay with this slope of 1.6% plus or minus 0.4, which has to be compared to the 0.5% observed with SDO data. So these two observations are compatible. We recover the same variation. So it's more. There is a lot more noise, but it's consistent with SDO. So we are. It's not a firm confirmation, but it goes in the right direction. So then we can continue to try to see if we can see more correlation with the magnetic field and see if we can really filter out also the pledge of our data. We know that especially close to the minimum, there is no pledge in the data. But to do that a bit automatically, we decided to make some mask using the magnetogram provided by HMI, the magnetogram that are simultaneously observed with the intensity images. And we mask every region of the images with a magnetic field larger than 200 Gauss. And in the rest of the image, we compute the density and the mean area. It's a bit tricky to correctly deal with the boundary of the mask, but anyway, it has to be done properly. And it's what we get. So if we compare to the previous slide, so this one is the same as this one. And you see it's almost the same thing. So the black point have not changed. You clearly just see some change for the red and blue points. It's normal, it's image where there was some pollution with some spore and spot. And clearly the spread now on this image is, this curve is smaller than in the previous one. And we clearly see the variation. So the variation is not at all linked to pledge. And to go a bit, to continue and to go a bit further, we wanted to see if in the quiet sun, the change in the granulation was linked, directly linked to the magnetic structure of the network. So this is a magnetogram of field of view. In the image, magnetic field goes from minus 100 to 100 Gauss. And we compute some mask, typically to remove the structure larger than 30 Gauss. And it's mainly the structure, the magnetic structure that are in the network. And so we remove this region and really focus on the intra-network granulation and have a look on that. And this is a variation we see. So clearly, there is two things to, when we compare to the previous plot, to realize. First, we observe in average bigger granules in the intra-network. So it makes sense because the magnetic field is smaller, so we expect bigger granules. But nevertheless, even if the variation is have a lowest amplitude in the intra-network, there still it remains some variation, clear variation, and that is significant. So I have almost finished, and I can just go to the conclusion of this, mainly of this paper. So we conclude that the granulation scales in the quiet sun clearly vary with activity, with an amplitude of 1 or 2% according to what you are considering. And this effect is still visible in the intra-network. So it's not only the magnetic structure of the network that creates this variation. We also see that the maximum or density of the minimum of the granular area is a bit shifted compared to the activity level. However, we have to keep in mind that it's done only at the disk center close to the equator. And now we need to make some extra analysis to see what happens at higher latitude, because the topology of the magnetic field evolved a lot with the cycle, and we can expect some change in the shape of this variation if we have a look, for instance, at 30 degrees of latitude. But the main difficulty to go at higher latitude is the projection effect. And if the image if the projection effect are too large, so it means that the granules are observed with an angle which is too large, there is a big risk of confusing close granule, and we will introduce noise and miss the smallest granule. So it requires more work. So is this variation linked to the cycle or still some instrumental effect? I think we did the most extensive study we can do to verify there is no single instrumental or link to the data analysis. Perhaps we miss something. If you have some idea, you can say, but we are now quite confident, especially since we added one more year, and now we start to see the decrease again of the granulation size. The limit of our study is yes, this pixel size problem that avoid any inference of results to analyze any variation. I won't say smaller than 1 year, but at least for long-term analysis, it's fine. And there is the aging. We have not a lot of control. We know it exists. We have seen that in the thinning factor, but it will never affect the V-shape we see here. What I expect from the aging is, once again, is losing with time a smaller and smaller granule. So the mean area should increase progressively. So something like that, like this orange line. And this is, but the V-shape of the V-shape we observe is clearly cannot be explained by that. So we have this first time, I would say, the first solid observation of granulation variation in the quiet sun that has now to be explained. And is this 1 or 2% variation is something we can explain with the physics we know of the sun, but I let that to other people. And that's it.